I've been playing outdoors since I was a kid, standing by the front door at around 2 years old, hollering, side, 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 trying to get my mom to let me go play outside. Now, after 30 plus years working in the outdoor business, I'm dropping insider conversations every week with the brand leaders, guides, marketers, CEOs, and others that make the outdoor industry a trillion-dollar juggernaut that drives product innovation, revenue, and public policy for everything outdoors. I'm Rick Saez. Welcome to the Outdoor Biz Podcast.
Hey, before we get to this week's episode, I want to let you know of a great podcast I recently learned about that I think you'll enjoy. Who Runs This Park? Here is host Maddie Pellman to tell you all about it.
Who Runs This Park is a podcast showcasing the untold stories of people serving and protecting our national parks for over 100 years. I'm your host, Maddie Pellman, and together we'll uncover the stories of national park superintendents that have never before gotten the attention and appreciation they deserve. I can guarantee how you view our national parks and protected lands will change, and you'll leave inspired and itching for an adventure. At the precipice of unprecedented challenges in the Park Service and in conservation in general, these conversations are crucial. Together, we are building a community of park enthusiasts and stewards. Join in by listening to Who Runs This Park wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Hey, Jake, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much, Rick. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here too. I love talking to more guide types that, that's my background as a river guide, as we were talking earlier. And I just love talking to you guys because it's such a fun lifestyle, right?
It is indeed. It's always nice chatting with different folks from different backgrounds within the guiding field, as well as just people who are excited to share those experiences with others. So it's like to be here today.
Awesome. Good. Good to talk to you. So Let's start with a memorable experience from your childhood. Let me do that over. Let's start with a memorable experience from your childhood that influenced your love of the outdoors. Is there something that stands out?
Yeah, I think so I grew up in the Midwest. We grew up kind of classic Midwest family, grew up on a farm just outside of Iowa City in Iowa. And fortunate that both my parents loved the outdoors. They originally met and started dating after a trip up in the Boundary Waters in northern Minnesota. And my dad was big into climbing in the Midwest in the 70s. Mm-hmm. So I think one of my earliest pieces of outdoor activity that's probably emblematic of why I chose the life that I do, why I'm excited, is going up to Devil's Lake in the Baraboo area of Wisconsin. So really cool state park up there, pretty classic granite lines in the Midwest up there. And, I remember going up there when we were like 2 with some other families.
Yeah.
And we set up a bunch of top ropes and rappels. And I remember we had a bunch of fun, and I also rappelled down something and fell off of it or flipped upside down, something along those lines, and got a little bloody lip, and we still did it the next day because we were so excited about it. So I think from that moment I've been hooked. And the fortunate thing, my wife and I now have a 1.5-year-old. And we're just really excited to show him the wonders, the beauty of the outdoor world and experiences that you can have there.
Very cool. It always helps to cement the deal when you have a little experience that bruises you up a little bit, doesn't it? Kind of brings it home, makes it real, and kind of expands the memory when you get later, right? Oh no, I fell off this. It was 10 feet, Right?
And I think I'm either fortunate or unfortunate to have loads of those memories over life to continue to cement those things. Yeah.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. So how did your diverse background from farming, teaching, and carpentry shape your approach to outdoor adventure and leadership?
I think in that regard, having that diverse background, I've always pursued things that I enjoyed. Mm-hmm. And I think even more so, I've pursued and followed people that I enjoyed and looked up to. And I have a really hard time doing one thing. And I love doing lots of things. And I think that both the outdoor education, leadership, medicine, all those pieces out there just scratch some of the itches that I love in terms of the hands-on pieces, the practical pieces. And, hopefully we're able to impart some wisdom along the way. So I think they all kind of amalgamated together, and it just felt right. And someone told me early on was to follow the people that you hold dear, and then that are important to you, and they're doing the right things, and usually things that then follow through with that. So I'm definitely not a master at nearly anything. Maybe a Jake or Jack of all trades,
right,
if you will. Yeah, and really enjoy imparting and sharing that craft and wisdom. And even almost 40 years old, I'm still learning every day, hopefully. Right. So yeah, I like having that diversity and and encourage that in others as well.
I think I heard a term, I hope I get this right, called omnipotentialite or a potentialate. It's just some
I haven't
of those,
heard that before.
Yeah, I forget. I think that's it. Where I was on a podcast or something, where some of us, I'm the same way. We just can't do one thing. We got to have our fingers in 67 things, and you get pretty good at all of them. You may not be great at any of them, but you're damn good at all of them. So
yeah. I think you can show up.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a similar trait that a lot of us, maybe guides or outdoor educators and folks in the outdoor industry, definitely thrive in. And obviously, the select few who are experts at one thing are really, really good at it. And I don't know if I could do that. I don't think I'll ever try either.
Yeah, I get bored. I just, one thing for too long, and I got to go do something else just to change the pace.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. What kind of farming did you do?
So we grew up in town in Iowa City, but we had a farm just outside of town, small little few 100-acre farm with grass-fed Angus cattle. My grandfather was a butcher, and then we had a little bit of hay and corn on the farm. And it was a family farm that had been around for a while.
Wow.
And obviously, the nature of farming has changed over the years. Like, in order to function or at least make it, you need thousands of acres. But this was like, our little oasis of fun in the summers and taking care of the calves in the winter and fixing fences and learning a lot of very fortunate things that I see now of like some of that hard work pieces and being able to put in that work to make some very tangible things happen, like build a fence and clean up cow manure. Not fun
and it lets
moment,
you can survive any of it, right?
Yeah. So hopefully we'll encourage our kid to do some of that someday as well.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What inspired you to pursue a career as a mountain river guide?
I think I kind of I had a moment in life where a trauma happened, where a dear friend of mine was killed in my late years of undergrad. And I was going into the medical field, about to go to medical school. And that piece just maybe made me open eyes differently or change differently. But, had this love and passion for helping people as well as like loved the outdoors and found my cup being filled up in both directions. And I think with that death of that wonderful human kind of drove me to go seek out more of the outdoor things and move abroad and do some of those things. And in that regard, like solidified like what I wanted to do and then the community that I call my family now. So a really, really sad event that happened, and yet it led me in the direction where I am today. So kind of that impetus for that.
Yeah, it kind of seals the deal, doesn't it? Kind of brings it home, makes it real. Yeah. And it is a big family. It's just, I don't care how far and distant we get and how many different people we meet. It's just as soon as you meet someone who's from that outdoor community, it just feels like they're a brother or a sister or whatever. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's certainly a kinship and have shared similar experiences, even though not the exact same experience. And it tends to be more people who are more willing to start a conversation and have conversations around, you fill in the topic and, into the wee hours of sitting by a river with a bunch of friends and just having conversations about nothing. It has been just so cool along the way.
Yeah, exactly. Can you tell us about a particularly challenging or rewarding expedition that you've led as a guide? You sound like you've been in a lot of cool places.
Yeah.
Probably a few of them.
Yeah, there's certainly a few. Challenging in general. I think, one time I was leading like a mixed hiking with some big wall climbing into this area in Cochimo in the Patagonia, like northern Patagonia region down there. And we brought some friends and then had some clients there, and we had some big objectives that, you hike in from the trailhead, you go about 4-ish hours through these very deep grooves that the horses have carved in. And it's, kind of the Patagonia jungle. And then you open and come to this valley that is essentially the Yosemite of South America. And I was there in the late 2000s, early 2010s. And it just rained. It just rained forever. We were like wading through 3 feet of water and, mosquitoes and bugs and all these different things.
Rain is the worst.
Yeah. I mean, like it's fun, but in the moment, not so much fun.
Yeah.
And we slogged through so many things and waited out the rain for several days in tents and drinking mate and sitting by the fire. And I think we were about to pull the plug when everything just opened up and the sky opened up. We had a few days of high pressure systems, and the people who we were with, both clients and friends alike, like we had a blast.
Cool.
And I don't know. I mean, again, not big, awe-inspiring pieces there, but I think things like that, and thinking back to that moment, like had we not had that terrible weather for several days, even though it wasn't really life-threatening or too scary, we might not even enjoyed it as much, right? It was like having that, for lack of a better term, yin and yang. Like, great. Sometimes I got to experience a little bit of the hard to enjoy the easy and the fun.
And sometimes the hard makes the beauty show up.
Oh yeah, yeah. Right. And maybe you appreciate it days later, or weeks later, or months later, when you're getting to the type 6 and 7 and 8 fun. But yeah, I agree. I think that's the really, really neat thing about the outdoors, is that those experiences are there, and people can experience in different ways, but it will be an experience regardless.
Exactly. Yeah. So you've worked in various countries like Patagonia and Ecuador. How do the different cultures influence your approach to wilderness medicine and outdoor education?
I think, going to Patagonia or Ecuador or Iceland or Nepal, like those are all very differing countries and different cultures. But I appreciate them so much in terms of they're also community oriented, especially when it comes around the outdoors. You go into these small communities in Chile and Argentina, or in Ecuador, in Iceland, obviously it's a more developed country, and or Nepal and India, and it's just so welcoming. And even if you don't know the language, right? I speak Spanish, and when I lived down there, so that was obviously easier to connect in that regard. But like, you have shared experiences even when you don't have to say anything, which is pretty neat. And seeing how people live and how you can be a part of that and not be a total outsider, and also potentially influence and impact some of those communities. Like, I think that is another thing that has always filled my cup. Like, I love meeting new people, having new experiences, and those countries that I've been fortunate to go to, both for work and play, have shaped who I am today, and hopefully brought some of that community back to our community back in the US. And
I've had the same experience. It's great.
Yeah. And maybe you experience it or not, but I find that depending where you are in the US, it's not that people are cold, but it's just less outgoing, less willing to be open arm and allow and have people come to you. And I don't think that, and I think it's different in the outdoor community. It's pretty arms open.
Yeah.
But at least in the Latin American countries, for sure, it's just great, come hang out with us, whoever you are.
Yeah.
If you're a good person, let's share a meal, share an experience, share a conversation. I think, life just better shared. So I've always sought that out.
I agree. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And it's different around the world. I think Americans are a little more reserved, I guess. I'm not sure what the term is, but you go anywhere, Nepal to, I was in Georgia, the Caucasus Mountains in Georgia, and we were walking up to these Russian guys that were at these guard stations, and they were just they kind of look at us, but they saw we had packs on, and we're no threat, and they just offer cigarettes. And, it was amazing. Pretty cool.
Yeah. I think we have so many preconceived notions about fill in the blank culture.
Yeah.
That one of my favorite things to do, at least try to, intentionally do when we're going somewhere, is just great, I know what I've experienced before, but let's wipe the slate clean, and hey, these are other humans from different culture, and I'm going to give the best of me, and hopefully I receive the best. And it doesn't always happen that. And I think, Americans are good in that regard, but oftentimes are just maybe a little more reserved until they get to know one another.
Yeah.
Just because the nature of our culture.
Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. What motivated you to co-found Beyond Adventures?
Beyond Adventures. So it was, and it's no longer around it's not around anymore, but we've been doing things over the years with friends. And I think it was the same piece, right? It was a bunch of guide friends who have become now family. One of the guys there was in my wedding. I've been in all the other guys' weddings who we founded it with. And we were working together a lot. And we're it would be very utopic and ideal. Let's just start something together. So the way that worked years ago, we started Beyond Adventures, essentially LLC, as a way to work with some underserved youth, some lower socioeconomic individuals who just had the inability to access some of the very simple things that I've been fortunate to access. And working with schools and working with communities in doing that. And
how long was
that
it
was
around?
A chapter of life, probably 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And all of us have since, moved on to not necessarily bigger and better things, but just different things.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a chapter of life where we were hopefully impactful of some schools. We worked with a few schools in the Front Range in Colorado.
Cool.
And then all of us kind of moved in different directions. And all of us actually still do a lot of things in the outdoors, from working with the Nature Conservancy to working as a teacher out east to, you know, all the things that I do nowadays. And
cool.
it was a cool venture.
Mm-hmm. Cool experience.
I think we were, and have been fortunate to be a part of lots of things along the way. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was neat.
Yeah. And can you share a moment when your outdoor skills and medical training were put to the test in a real life situation? A couple of those, I'll bet. More than one.
Probably too many times. We had a time where this was several years ago, where we were doing a swift water rescue course that all of us were recertifying in within the team that I worked for within an NGO doing disaster response and disaster rescue. And all of us went on the American River, kind of on the western slope there in California outside of Sacramento.
Yeah.
And we were practicing a bunch of stuff every day and having a blast and re-upping all of our skills. And one of our fellow teammates, she jumped in and unfortunately just as luck would have it, in the wrong spot, and her knee went down and nailed a rock in some pretty good swift water.
Ooh.
So went from training to now, hey, real zone there.
Right.
And the nice thing is, when we're practicing all this stuff, we have all the safety set up, and a bunch of us swam with her, helped her out, did a little lift and a little bit of evac out to a vehicle with a splint, and she was at the hospital soon afterwards, and unfortunately hurt her knee pretty good.
Oh, bummer. At least you're all there and trained to handle it.
Yeah, and it I think in those moments too, it's funny. Sometimes often look back, like you don't even often think about it. Like, great, you just do what you're trained to do.
Automatic, right?
Yeah, and those happen on any of these wilderness medicine courses that we teach. Like, we train our students to do it, and then fortunately or unfortunately, sometimes things happen on course, and then we just help and we do exactly what we just told them we were going to do.
Yeah.
So I think the modeling piece of that is pretty cool. But I've been fortunate enough that no worries. I've been fortunate enough that there hasn't been any big bad scary stuff to be involved with personally. So
same.
Sorry, what were you to say?
No, I forget what I was going to say, but it's your training. It's just the training takes over. It's amazing how that happens.
Yeah.
You just go into automatic.
It can be scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's usually people so.
Right. Yeah.
You can debrief it afterwards and take care of one another, both psychologically and physically speaking during, and hopefully keep people safe. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. How did you connect with NOLS?
So NOLS, my first course, I guess the only course that I took for NOLS, was a NOLS Wilderness Medicine woofer. So wilderness first responder, back in sometime in the 2000s, I don't remember. And I was needing obviously that skill and that certification to work for a guide outfit that I was working out of the summer, doing whitewater paddling and a little bit of canoeing and some hiking, and got into that course and met some really cool people on the course and got to know the instructors really well. And those instructors became really good friends of mine over the years, and then got my certification, and I kept up with them as instructors. And I was like, hey, I kind of like what you do. Like, how do I get to do that? And at the time I was living down in Chile and Patagonia, and just communicating occasionally, and signed up to get on an ITC, so an instructor training course, and didn't make it on the first round through.
Oh, wow.
Those courses, the instructor training courses, you have a lot of people.
Yeah.
Nowadays we have 400 or 500 people apply for them.
Wow, really? Holy
15, 20 spots. And, I was young, I was 24 and 23, and like, great, I'd love to do this. And so chatted with whomever I chatted with, I can't remember then, tried to improve the resume, try to improve on the things that were lacking, if you will, and applied the next year and got on. And, since it's been around. And
how long have you been with them now?
Since 2010. So almost 15 years now.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's been good. And for the most part, working full time for them, both in the wilderness medicine realm and expedition realm.
Very cool. Yeah. So it's no longer necessary to spend 4 months in the classroom to earn an EMT. Walk us through the process at NOLS. I remember I never did that because of that time commitment.
Sure.
Couldn't pull it off.
So Well, I mean, it's still out there. The like standard National Registry EMT often is over like a semester length, usually around like 200-ish hours. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes they're at like community college where you're doing Tuesday, Thursday nights and maybe 1 or 2 weekends a month, and then doing some clinical trainings along the way. NOLS, I don't know what our first EMT was without having to look, but for a long time, we've been doing this consolidated wilderness EMT. So ultimately, it's a combination of a wilderness first responder, so all the wilderness medicine, plus what you would learn in a nationally registered EMT course. So over 200 hours, it's 4 weeks long, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 with several evenings dotted in there. And then students will do their required clinical hours with local hospitals, and they'll be on like 8-hour sessions there for a total of 16 hours.
Gotcha. And so the hours are still the same. They just
hours are the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the easy way to do it is like take a semester level course, throw it into 3.5 weeks of curriculum.
Yeah.
So it's expedited. It is intense.
It's intense. Yeah.
Yeah. It is like any other wilderness medicine course in terms of there are amazing, intentional, well thought out and well trained instructors who are well experienced, but also just really good instructors and teachers that work with. So there's 3 instructors and then 30 students who on a daily basis are doing a lot of didactic work and a lot of practical work, hands-on pieces, and getting folks to understand in very dynamic, but also progression-based medicine to be really good care providers. And ultimately, right, there are rubrics along the way where students have to pass a certain amount of exams at certain levels in terms of numbers there. But if you pass the rigor of the course, you have a very high likelihood of then passing your national exam. And I think our national exam passing rates right now are like 95% of students who take it.
Impressive.
Which is, yeah. And it's not for every student, right? One, it's more intense. And if you need more time to process, like some of those students struggle, and maybe a more traditional sense, if you will, a longer period one over time, they do great at. But it's one way to get your EMT, but also in an austere setting. And the really neat thing is that it's all our EMTs now are at our campus in Lander, Wyoming, where they stay residentially. They have food there, and we have access to mountains and streams and outdoors and all these different things that you apply the medicine. And then Mother Nature is the fourth teacher, if you will. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah. And good success rate. That's awesome.
Yeah, doing pretty well.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah.
We're all doing our best to reduce environmental pollution, but those gadgets that seemingly eat batteries. There are 10 million alkaline batteries thrown away every day in the USA, and most are landfilled or incinerated. Pale Blue Earth batteries could help you reduce your share of that. Because when you need a battery, you need it now or very soon. Speed and convenience matter. Pale Blue batteries are rated for 1,000 charges and come with a limited charge-for-life guarantee. They are available in sizes AAA, AA, 9-volt, C, D, and CR123A. And we've got a special offer from Pale Blue just for Outdoor Biz listeners. Go to paleblueearth.com and use code ODBizBlue15 and get 15% off your batteries today. That's ODBIZBLUE15, and that code is good until June 30th, so get on it. Grab a few for holiday gifts, and get some for your friends and family, too. Stop throwing away batteries and money. Go to paleblueearth.com and use code ODBizBlue15. Help the planet survive so our kids, nieces, and nephews can have the same outdoor fun we've had. Now let's get back to the show.
So how does NOLS prioritize safety while still allowing participants to experience the thrill and adventure of the outdoor activities they participate in?
I think that's hard. Right? I think
you can't ever tell when something's going to pop up, right? It just happens, and it happens fast.
And I think just like you and I have been talking, I think it's the training, I think it's the teaching, I think it's the human experience, and I think it's the experience in, NOLS has been around for 67 years. They've had a lot of people in remote environments with very minimal extreme injuries or deaths. And there's a lot to say to that. And there's a lot of people who have come before us who have thought through things. And then if something does happen, we learn from it. and we can't always know exactly what's going to go on. But I think, a big piece of this in any of these cases is just really good risk mitigation.
Right.
And being intentional about managing risk in the ways that we as human beings and guides and leaders can. And then having dynamic conversations around when that risk level and our tolerance for that risk changes. Right. And it's dependent on the group as a whole and their capabilities. It's dependent on the experience of the instructors and the guides. Right. And, there's policies and all these things that what you're not going to do. And then how do we live in that realm? And I think part of it that what NOLS is so good at, and some other outdoor organizations are so good at, like allowing to toe that line, if you will, for students to feel uncomfortable, but safe.
Right.
And pushing those comfort levels, because we know, right, if we push our comfort and we get out of that comfort zone, that allows us to grow in some inevitable way, whether psychologically or physically speaking, or in some skill set. And I think, I've been fortunate to work with a lot of great instructors who I've learned from them and seen how they manage risk. And I think, going from my 20s to my 30s and almost 40s now, like, how I manage risk personally and how I manage with the group is different, but my tolerance for risk has definitely gone to the lesser extent with, family and bodily harm, if you will, at least not ability to recover as much.
Right.
And also just learning. So I think NOLS is intentional about that. And I think they're able, and folks who work in all of our outdoor industry, like if you're able to have a conversation around managing the risk and noting and just naming the risk there and allowing voices to talk so we can make a good decision that keeps everyone in mind. And also, like, we can't control everything.
Right.
The riskiest thing we're going to do, and I tell this to students often, is we're going to get in a vehicle. Like, that's probably the thing we can't manage the most. Like, big box of steel going 80 miles an hour, and you have hundreds of other people doing the same thing near you. Like, I'd rather be on a rock face where I can manage most of the risk.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I used to tell people on the river. The most dangerous piece of this trip is the drive home, the bus.
Yeah, it's all relative, right? And and then you're working with individual in terms of where their level of tolerance for that risk is, and trying to meet them in the middle as best as you can.
Yeah,
so, I think it's cool.
Yeah, no, they do a good job at it. That's right.
Yeah.
And how does NOLS incorporate environmental stewardship and leave no trace into their programs? They talk about it a lot, I'm sure. And
yeah. So I think
demonstrated it a lot.
I think those are common threads that are weaved in any expedition or wilderness medicine course at NOLS. Obviously, one will come greater depending on where you're at in terms of the environmental stewardship and impact in those pieces there. But like we at NOLS are fortunate to use the outdoors as our classrooms, and I think that appreciation is, hey, we're able to use these places, so let's keep them nice for everyone else as well as us. And
right.
And I think most students understand that going into it, but that they probably see that value more and more each day as they're on a 30-day mountaineering course or a 30-day EMT, or even like a week-long course that they're doing a river course there. I think it's a very common thing within outdoor programs, but I think NOLS does it really, really well in terms of both having curriculum training for their instructors, as well as that follow through in the pedagogy, as well as how that gets delivered to students and clients alike. I think NOLS does it pretty well.
They do a great job at it. They've been around a long time, like you say, and they've got a lot of experience and great training. I always wanted to take a NOLS course, but like I said, the timing and just never pulled it off. But
hey, you still can.
I still can. Yeah, I got horrible knees now. My knees are wrecked from all the years of fun I've had, but I could probably do.
Well, come over and take a wilderness first aid course sometime.
Yeah, I could do that for sure for a week or something. Yeah.
Or go take a sailing course, so you don't have to be using your knees very much.
There you go. That's a good idea. I like that idea. Either of those two, both.
You let me know. I'll hook you up with the right people.
Right on. Sounds good. What do you see as the future of outdoor education and wilderness medicine?
Well, I hope the future is promising. I think we have some great people and some great minds who have been around and are trying to think of how those things are going to happen. I think in the outdoor adventure realm, I think there's more people getting outdoors, and I think there are also more people that don't have as much time to offer anymore. You know, your
Right.
classic 30-day to semester-long NOLS course, I think there's just less people taking those because, you know, there's so many other cool things to experience in the world, and you know, money can be tight for the individual. So I think NOLS will always be able to offer those things, and I think continue to grow and improve upon those offerings and increase those experiences. Like, there's always going to be people that want to do that.
Oh yeah,
and then,
absolutely.
And then how to make them accessible is, you know, that's why other people are paid the big bucks. And I think the NOLS, or the wilderness medicine in general, as well as NOLS Wilderness Medicine, I think, you know, it's a field that's ever growing, and you can see it within the history of NOLS Wilderness Medicine in terms of the early 90s, a few hundred people a year taking it up into the, you know, high 20,000s per year. Yeah. And like the impact, I think the neat part of that is the impact, right? You can impact 30 students in a course, and maybe one student in their life uses that skill to deeply impact someone's life or save a life.
Save a life, yeah.
You know, yeah, your work is worthwhile. And I think wilderness medicine, the good part about wilderness medicine, no one's really going to stop getting hurt.
That's true.
So
that's true.
And you know, the concept, it's wilderness medicine is just emergency medicine in an austere environment. So it's all the same, all the same information and all the same system there. And I think more and more, again, in my opinion, I think more and more people will probably continue to take wilderness medicine for the traditional sense of the outdoor education and outdoor adventure and all those different things there. And I think, you know, the nature of our world and the way things are moving and shaking and having more environmental disasters and things that are happening there, like, I foresee more and more of those more individuals who are in those fields wanting to help affect, whether locally, nationally, or internationally within those disasters, because they'll probably happen more. I would perceive more and more people wanting to do that. So I hope it's always a good field to both work in and teach in, as I've been fortunate to do it for so long with so many great people. And yeah, hopefully there's some positivity to it for sure.
And I think some of that wilderness medicine training comes in very handy and beneficial when some of our folks, you know, are, you know, not only first aid folks, but people are going to another country to give care to the locals and things, disasters, earthquakes happen there or whatever. And they're better trained than some of the locals because they've been in that austere environment, like you said, and had to do some form of medicine, right? So it's around the world.
Yeah. And I've been fortunate to be able to do that as well. So I foresee that continuing to happen, and hopefully we get more growth in that world and add more diversity to the field and more people from different experiences and backgrounds that can only, you know, amalgamate to just creating a better learning and growing environment. It's pretty cool.
Where did you get to go? Where have you traveled to?
Pardon?
Where have you traveled to go experience that kind of thing?
So I've also worked in the disaster response humanitarian realm. So in the Caribbean and different South American countries.
Wow.
When I was living in Patagonia, one of those big earthquakes happened and tsunamis happened. I went up and helped after that. I've done a lot of things nationally in and around, you know, the fires that were happening in and around the COVID era down in California, and also helping out in COVID and, you know, being down in Colombia and helping some communities there. So when I can or when I could, I would volunteer to go and go help as best I could, and, you know, continue to do so today.
Well, and that's the great thing about the training that you've had is it's just a wide variety of training. You can go help out in almost any situation.
I would hope. I would love to have more training and lots of other things. So I tend to know my limit, and I'm like, great, I can do that. And then, nope, I can't.
Oh, got you.
And you know, feel bad when I don't have something to offer. But yeah, I think in a lot of zones, both the way I like to communicate with others and my outgoingness and wanting to just get to know people, I think that helps to pull down barriers, at least initially, and then hopefully, you know, some of my training can have a positive effect. So one can hope, and I'll keep hopefully learning more and training more, and then, you know, teaching other people to hopefully.
Good on you, man. Good on you. That's awesome.
Certainly try. Yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone who wants to pursue a career in outdoor education or wilderness medicine?
We get this question asked a lot from students and clients alike. Like, hey, I'd like to do what you do. And oftentimes I think the few things that I'll say is, like, the outdoor industry and the outdoor world and wilderness medicine world, it's just like you and I have talked about before. It's a small family. and it's easy to burn bridges, so don't burn them. And then follow your passions as best as you can, and your means are able, and then when you find people that are your people, and or people you look up to, people that you can learn from, take every inch and every little bit of knowledge from them and put all the work into like just learn from them. And then put the work into to get yourself further in that career, whether it's certifications or advocating for yourself for better pay or seeking out other trainings, and just do the hard work first, so it's the easier later on. So not anything that I've made up. I mean, you and I talked about it already, like same information and messaging that I got from someone early on in life. Like, the people are the important parts of our life, and follow the good ones. And it's not as easy as saying that everything will work out, because it not necessarily will, but keep at it. Don't burn bridges. It's a small world, and keep following those passions to hopefully affect what you want to do, as well as hopefully affect others in the right way.
Yep, that is good advice. Works out for a lot of us. Yep.
We try. Yeah.
That's right. A couple of fun questions here as we go to the wrap. What is your favorite piece of outdoor gear under $100?
That's hard.
I think it's the hardest question I ask.
Yeah. What's my favorite? Probably,
favorite, or something that you use a lot that just comes in handy. It seems like you use it all the time.
Yeah. I mean, probably the two things, right? Maybe not favorite, but thing that I use a lot of and I really like I have some really nice sunscreen. I'm a ginger.
Okay.
Good sunscreen.
Yeah, that's good.
And in that same vein, probably like some type of sun hoodie. But like my favorite is probably, I've got this really old stuff sack that I think it was for a pair of skins from, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. And that stuff sack always has all of my favorite snacks in it. So I think my favorite thing is my snack bag.
That's cool. That's a good one. Nobody's ever said that. I like that.
Yeah. And it wasn't free. I bought the skins and then, but I had the bag, and it's got like, some stain here from being dragged down some cliff, and then a tear here from hitting it with crampons. And then it's probably been wet and dropped in the river, but like, I've always used the same one, and I know where it is, and bright red, and just pull it out and like, great. I know snacks are in there. Those are fun. It's fun tickets there.
The goodness is in there. Exactly. Yeah. The energy stuff is in there.
Lots of good stuff has been shared.
That's very cool. I love it. Yeah. I have the same. I have a favorite stuff sack too. It's from an old. Remember when Montbell? I think they're still making the 0 Point line. They have the 0 Point. They had a 0 Point overbag that fit over your sleeping bag that I had.
Nice.
And it's got a really cool logo on it. I use that stuff sack for everything. It doesn't have snacks in it, but it's all kinds of other stuff that, that logo makes it easy to find in the bottom of a pack or whatever. But yeah, that's funny. Favorite stuff sack.
That's awesome. That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah. How about books? Do you read a lot? Do you have a favorite book or two?
Yeah, I read a lot. And this is a question because I have a terrible memory. I think one of my favorite authors is Bill Bryson. And, have read A Walk in the Woods so many different times. And, I think there's one on Being Human or something like that. I really enjoy a lot of historical novels as well. And I can't think of it right now. I think it's called The Emerald Mile. Have you read that?
Oh, that's a great book. Yep.
Yeah. One of my favorite books of all time is The Emerald Mile, even though I can't remember the name of the book. But,
I can't remember the author. But, great book.
I think it might be Kevin Federico.
I think you might be right. Yeah, I think you're right.
Something along those words. And then Kite Runner, like in terms of just stories in general.
Yep.
Love that. And, one of my recent books that I read a few times, super sad, but When Breath Becomes Air was an amazing and awe-inspiring and also just sad book.
Oh, I've heard that one.
Yeah, look it up. It's about written by a doctor who unfortunately gets a terminal diagnosis of cancer, and he writes about the experiences he has with patients after that diagnosis and with his family and all those different things. So it's gutting. It's awe-inspiring. It's sad, but it's just so human. So I would recommend it.
I'll check that one out. Yeah, I'll pick that one up. That's like a good one.
Yeah.
And as we wrap up, how can people follow you, find you if they want to reach out or?
The easiest way would be my email. Okay. I don't have any social media. But yeah, you can find me at NOLS. So Jake, Jake_Wallace, WALLACE, at NOLS.edu. And
Cool.
Whether I'm in the office or just teaching, like I always, relatively answer that email if I'm not out away from service.
But on a 30-day trip or something.
Yeah. And I tend to try to find that balance of technology. And I think that's another hopeful thing that we can continue to find in our world.
I agree. Yeah, there's so much technology. Some of it's very handy, but some of it gets in the way.
Yeah. Use it as a way to lift things up and add to the experience as opposed to detract or distract.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I've enjoyed our conversation. It's been great talking to you. Thank you for coming on.
Likewise, Rick. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
You do the same. And thanks again to our sponsor, Pale Blue. Go to paleblueearth.com and use code ODBizBlue15 and stop throwing away batteries and money.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Outdoor Biz Podcast. Be sure to visit our website, theoutdoorbizpodcast.com, where you'll find show notes with links to everything we talked about and more. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or spread the word and tell a friend. That would really help us out too. Be sure to tune in every week, and thanks again for listening to the Outdoor Biz Podcast with Rick Saez.